wants to stop saying upcoming and actually show as a YouTube video. Not yet. Looks like we're just waiting for one more person. Let's see if this is actually live. Okay, yeah, it's awesome. Alright, let me share this quickly and then I will be with you. Hello, dude. It looks like you're watching with me. That's nice. So, Race of Champions, here we go. Let's have a look. So this might be the first time that we've got pretty much everyone who was the first automatic qualifiers to join Race of Champions. The only one missing is Chrissy, who would have been in the third tier 2 slot. He's been replaced by Bad Robot, who was just behind him in the standings. So let's have a quick look at the grid, because I'll be able to tell you who is starting where. It looks like we've got Juho will actually be starting in... No, actually, I tell a lie. I think it's Mr. Berserk is going to be on pole. And then Juho Finn in second, and Nath, our tier 5 champion, will be starting in third place. Looks like those two are going to be starting on softs. Just a reminder, you need to do all 3 tyre compounds in the Race of Champions, hards, mediums and softs. It is an hour-long race with 6 times tyre wear, and this is a very high tyre wear track, so there's going to be some really interesting strategies. I think there's going to be at least 3 stops for everybody. I don't think, unless you want to stay on the hards, but soft tyres will go maximum 10 minutes, and you've got a 60-minute race there, so the soft stints are going to be incredibly short, and that's being optimistic. 10 minutes. If you're on pad and you don't look after your tires very well, it might be 5, 6, 7 minutes maximum before they are fully red. In tier 4, representing us from tier 4, we've got Otto Ration. He, I think, won 5 races in that GR Supra. He's got a little 3-second penalty and doing a little spin for us there. A little bit further down, we got Yuri. He was in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo and managed to still qualify for the Race of Champions, even though it's not a very fancied car. It might actually be quite good around here, though. And our tier 4 champion, Ethan, in the Nissan GTR. Expecting a top half finish for Ethan, I reckon, is easily achievable for him. He's been a cut above everyone in tier 4 all season long in that Nissan. Tier 3, we've got Whack Jamps. He is in... Oh, we've also got Tap missing from tier 3. He would have qualified. And in his place is actually Whack Jamps in the McLaren. Really good on its tyres, so it should be in for a good day around here. Woozy in the another one in the Nissan GTR. He is going to be in the top half of the grid, I think. Maybe lining up 8th on the grid. And then our champion Pagel, I don't know where he's gone. He is in the Toyota FT1, which and he'll be starting P7 on the grid. Our tier 3 champion won it in quite some style, winning the final race of the season to secure that championship pretty comfortably in the end. Then, as for tier 2, P4 on the grid is going to be Dan the Man in his Lexus. P5 will be Ben in the BMW M6, and Bad Robot in the Toyota GR Supra in P6 on the grid. I can't count. So lots of different car representation here. And then As for Tier 1, starting last will be Javi, another BMW M6 driver. BX Royal will be starting just ahead of him in the Corvette, so the only Corvette on the grid. And then Kepler will be starting 12th, 13th on the grid. I don't know. I should have written this all down. And Kep, I can't remember what car he's in actually. Let's see when he comes out of the pits. What is that? It's another Lexus. So Kepler and Ben in the Lexuses today. So I don't think any car has more than 2 drivers competing in it. I know the FT1 has Juho Finn, and it also has Pagel. Hurricane didn't qualify for the Race of Champions in the end, didn't win a race. Neither did Pyro in Tier 3. JP Greenwood in Tier 5 was in the top 3 all season long and didn't qualify and didn't win a race. Actually had quite a poor final round, so he didn't qualify, and that is why Mr. Berserk is there. Constructors Champion in Tier 5 is Mr. Berserk alongside Zab, who narrowly missed out on qualifying for the Race of Champions himself. Kepler won many races. This is the second time he's actually mounted a title challenge in Tier 1, so he did quite well but just couldn't pull it off in the end. BX and Javi especially just had a little bit too much in their bag. Looks like we're going to be starting soon. Hello Jill, my Nations Cup teammate. Yuri just chilling on the side because we're about to start. Right, so we want to find who's going to be in first place. It was Juho. I didn't get to him quite quick enough. Actually, it's Mr. Berserk. Let's join on board. So it is reverse grid order from how they finished their season. So Mr. Berserk was the lowest ranked or rated driver, and so he is starting on pole position. Javi is our Tier 1 champion, so he's starting last. It looks like Mr. Berserk is going to be on the start. So we've got 5 lights up. Berserk will be able to get a good start here. And it's lights out, away we go. Pretty slow start from Berserk, actually. A really good start for Nath just behind him, who looks like he's already going to try and overtake. And he's lost the lead to Juho as well as we head into turn 1. Yuri's had a lightning fast start. He might actually take the lead of the race, our Tier 4 driver. He actually backs out a bit at the last minute. Juho holding on to the lead really tightly now. It looks like everyone's got around pretty straightforward there. So Juho is our race winner, also on the softs. Yuri is on the softs as well, and Berserk has actually dropped down to P3, just ahead of Nath. Then we got Ben all the way up into P5. Looks like there must have been some sort of incident a little bit further back. Ben, Woozy, then Bad Robot, Pagel, BX Royal all the way up to 9th already. Dan struggling there, going pretty slow, losing a lot of time. He's dropping all the way to the back behind Autoration and Wack, who must have had a little bit of an incident as well. But back at the front, it looks like Yuri has just got past Juho Finn in the second of the right handers there. I used to call it Death Corner, and it looks like Yuri's negotiated incredibly well as the top 4 are incredibly close heading into the chicane towards the final part of the lap. Yuri going defensive, Juho already mounting a challenge back on Yuri to try and retake the lead, but Yuri breaks much later than Juho and secures P1 again for now, and potentially has a great opportunity to start building a bit of a gap as we head into lap 2. But Juho's staying really close behind. Ben on the medium, so he's the highest placed car that's not on the soft, so I expect Ben to inherit the lead. He's also got past Nath at some point, so Ben is the one to watch out for. He has started incredibly well. You can see on the right hand side there, BX Royal is the only Tier 1 driver who's made his way into the top 7 in his Corvette there, which is lightning off the standing starts. Looks like Yuri is creating a gap now ahead of Berserk. He's 1.2 seconds, and Ben is going to try and capitalize on Berserk, who isn't as quick at all around here compared to Ben. Ben's going to push around the inside. There's a little bit of contact, but they both managed to keep it on the road, and Ben looks like he's got P2 and can start trying to chase down Yuri, but he's a little bit squirrely on the exit of Death Corner there, and he's going to have to drag race Berserk all the way down the straight. This is not a very long straight, but it's the longest one we've got on the track, and it's the best opportunity for the cars with the better engines to try and get an overtake done. But it looks like Ben's just got about enough in him to keep the position. He's also got the inside line for the chicane, and he brakes a lot later, and Berserk has to tuck in behind and come under a little bit of pressure from Nath now. It looks like BX and Kepler are in the top 8 in P6 and 7 respectively, so we will just stay on with this little battle for now, as Berserk is going to be going defensively into turn 1. Incredibly difficult. Looks like Woozy's already come off his hard tyres there. Some people might have pit on lap 1 as well. Let's have a quick look at the back. Javi is on mediums. It looks like he must have had a pit stop, same as Wack. And Juho is still on the softs, but he's all the way down in P12. He must have had a problem somewhere that we missed, and Woozy's just coming out of the pits now. I don't think Juho pit, because look at his tyres, they still have a bit of wear on them. As for the top, Yuri has a 2.2 second lead over Ben now. He should still have tyre advantage as it stands. Mr. Berserk still holding off Nath, and BX Royals already joined this party. So BX Royal could be in the top 3 and starting to mount a challenge towards Ben if he could get past these tier 5 drivers fairly soon. Let's ride with BX and see what he could do. This is the part of the track the Corvette will just love compared to that Beetle of Nath's just behind. Nath trying to stick with the slipstream of Berserk to stop a challenge from BX, but it looks like the overtake is inevitable here. BX is going to have to try and back out a little bit and not collect, and Nath has gone in the gravel, and that is going to be a free position for Kepler and for Bad Robot there, and potentially for Dan as well, who's actually T-bones Nath, and that's a nightmare, and he's going to fall even further back. But it looks like BX Royal is just ahead of Mr. Berserk, which we missed out in all of that. So BX Royal just under 4 seconds off the lead of the race, and 1.6 behind Ben. But if you can see on his graphic, he's on soft tyres, so he started aggressively. He wanted to get past all these people, but he is going to have to be one of the very first cars to come in off their soft tyres in maybe 3 or 4 laps, I reckon. Maybe he'll drive a couple of laps on completely red tyres. We have to wait and see what he's thinking in terms of his strategy. He is now 1.3 seconds behind Ben, who's himself is closed the gap pretty well to Yuri. That's down to 1.7 now. A little bit further back, let's have a look. Berserk is a little bit in no man's land with Keplero a bit further back as well. Now Bad Robot's worked his way up into 6th, just ahead of Ethan, who is going to have to try and, well, actually it's Auto Ration who's going to have to defend from Dan. So Auto's managed to work his way back up to 8th after what looked like a pretty bad start in the Supra, but we saw Dan T-bone Ethan and that resulted in him falling all the way back to P9, and Dan just got such a better exit there, and he's got a bit of lag as well, unfortunately. Sometimes happens with Dan, and Auto Ration has to give up that position, and Dan is going to start chasing down Ethan now. Meanwhile, at the front, it looks like BX Royal has already caught up to the back of Ben. Ben is going to have to start putting on a defensive show here. Remember, Ben's on the mediums, BX Royal's on the softs, which is why BX has closed the gap in basically 1 lap. He's lapping much quicker. He's got an 18 flat, which is the fastest lap of the race, compared to Ben's fastest, which is a full second slower. And BX might get Ben if Ben doesn't put up too much of a defense. Ben with the RX Racing BMW livery there, that is the team that he's part of, the esports team. And he's not actually going to go defensive here. Maybe he's thinking about his strategy long term a little bit more and not trying to battle BX Royal too hard there. He just gave it up essentially, and now BX Royal is in 2nd, less than 2 seconds off the lead, and with a bit of clear air to start chasing down Yuri. Both of them on soft tyres. Looks like BX has been looking after his soft tyres a tad better than Yuri there, and Ben's just going to want to try and stick with him as close as possible. Berserk's doing pretty well. We're on lap 6, and the tier 5 driver is still in 4th place behind a tier 1 driver, a tier 2 driver, and a tier 4 driver who is on the soft tyres and got a lightning start. And Keplero hasn't really closed the gap to Mr. Berserk so much. Still 1.2 seconds is the gap for the Lexus driver before a big gap further back to Bad Robot, who's on the hards. So we saw some drivers pit straight away off the hards just to get rid of them. Bad Robot's decided he wants to go long on the hards. Looks like Dan's got past Ethan as well in the meantime. So Kepler's starting to catch up to Mr. Berserk here, so we might see an overtake before too long. A little bit further up, Yuri's still got a fairly decent gap ahead of BX Royal. Ben's sticking to the back of BX Royal as well there. You might see that Javi, is Javi, where is he? Our tier 1 champion is a bit further back. You see he's got the RX Racing as well. He is another RX driver. I think we've got maybe 5 in the tier in the league at the moment, in various tiers, usually the towards the top end though. And the gap is now just 8 seconds between BX and Yuri. The tyres are starting to go off a lot. This is going to help Ben, who's got some pretty fresh tyres in comparison to BX Royal, and Yuri ahead of him. He should start to close the gap on these drivers that managed to overtake him a few laps ago. And Kepler really close. He's less than 3/10 behind Mr. Berserk. Mr. Berserk on the softs, actually looking after his softs a bit better than the drivers in P1 and P2. Got a little bit more life on them. I remember that actually from when I used to commentate his tier maybe a year ago. He was really good on his tyres. Looks like we've got a change for the lead though, which we missed unfortunately. BX Royal getting past Yuri to take the lead of the race for the first time. Remember, he started in P14 and it's taken him 7 laps to reach P1. Now the question is for BX, because we've seen multiple times this season he has been potentially the quickest car. Yuri's going to have a go at him and he backs out of it at the last second. Mitsubishi Lancer not able to outbrake the Corvette there. BX is, yeah, like I was saying, he's got like the most fastest laps in tier 1. It looks like Yuri's got into the pits already and Ben's carrying on. BX is carrying on. Ben might be able to close the gap on BX a little bit. The gap is 1.1 at the moment, and it's going to be a question now of the tyres for BX Royal, because he's spanned this Corvette on dead tyres multiple times this season, because you have to kind of take a risk in tier 1 to get the reward, but quite a few times it just didn't pay off for him. Yep, BX does have a DQ CSR badge on his livery. Dude's quick clean sprint races, which hopefully will be making more of a comeback next season. So BX still maintaining the gap of about 1.1 seconds ahead of Ben, who got the second part of those little death corners quite wrong. Kepler in P3 going long, Berserk P4. Bad Robot's actually closed the gap on Berserk a little bit because he's now only 5.3 seconds behind the P3 driver, and he's got Dan for company now on his medium. So this little tier 2 battle is about to kick off again, and we'll have to see if Dan can get past Bad Robot. Hopefully the lag isn't too bad. It looks like it's not as jittery as it was a few moments ago, although it's still not the best. Maybe Bad Robot must be trying a 2-stop. He's stayed out way too long on these hards to pit anytime soon. He must be going all the way to the end. Maybe a full tank of fuel on the hard tyres, making the 2-stop try and work for him, and by holding up drivers like Dan and making it difficult for them to get past, because this isn't really an overtaking track. It's not easy to overtake here at all. So we could see Bad Robot ruining multiple strategies on this stint as cars start to catch up to him, including ones that potentially have pit already, because if he's got one pit stop left, they've got to overtake him on track for sure. A little bit further up, we've got BX in P1. Kepler is 4.2 seconds behind in P2 with look at the tyres on BX Royal. Surely after lap 9 he's going to have to try and, well, make a pit stop here and surrender the lead of the race. He might get actually undercut by some of the drivers who pit way earlier, including Javi, who I'm pretty sure pit on lap 2 or lap 1. So he might get a huge undercut because BX has had to overtake people. He is going into the pits now. Kepler is going to carry on and take the lead of the race. So let's just go down and see if anyone else is planning on pitting. Not anytime soon. Ethan in P6 on those hard tyres doing the same strategy as Bad Robot there. And Juho Finn on the softs is carrying on once again. Pagel is on the hards, struggling a little bit more than the drivers behind, and Nath, who we saw take a trip into the gravel, is in P9 on pretty dead softs, still hounding Pagel though. BX Royal is coming out of the pits now, and he's going to rejoin ahead of the battle that we were just watching. So he's 3.5 seconds ahead of Pagel and Nath. So he rejoins in P7. I'm pretty sure that is the highest of the pitters. Whack Jam's in 10th. We haven't seen much of him today, but he's just currently holding up Javi, who really didn't get any undercut on BX Royal, considering they're both meant to have stopped one time apiece. But Javi has been on, I'm assuming, hards to start with, and then mediums now. So he's got his quickest stints still to come. He's really hounding Whack here. Whack is under a lot of pressure from the Tier 1 champion. Whack's won 4 races himself this season though, so he knows how to drive and command a lead as well, but it looks like Javi might just have a little bit too much for him now. Both of them on medium tyres. It's going to be who brakes the best. Oh, not by going on the grass. Well, never mind. Never mind. Javi gets P10 as a result of that, and Kepler, it looks like, has carried on for yet another lap. He's just going through Sector 1 now. Juho Finn is the next driver to pit, so he pits out of P8. Let's scroll all the way down. It looks like we've lost somebody. Is it Ben? Looks like we lost Ben, unfortunately. That's unlucky. I don't know when we lost him, but he was saying his internet isn't too great tonight, and that he was doing well. He started really well. He could have had a podium in this race for sure. It's a shame we're not going to see what happened to that. But Juho and Nath both come into the pits, and they're coming out in the bottom 2 positions. Berserk, Mr. Berserk is still carrying on in P2 with pretty dead tyres now. He's got a rear left dead tyre, which is going to punish him a lot. So 11 laps on a set of softs is pretty good. I think he should be pretty proud of that stint, despite being 9 seconds down from Kepler. But we know he's not really fighting Kep tonight, and he's kept someone like Dan at bay, who is 2.5 seconds behind him. Dan's finally got past Bad Robot. Is Berserk coming in now? It looks like he is. How is he gonna... Oh, he's gonna get a 3-second penalty for that. And Dan is carrying on, and Bad Robot is also carrying on. Dan's tyres are now nearly gone on those on the Lexus there. He's a pad user, so he does shred through the tyres pretty quickly, and that might start to punish him here. Bad Robot hasn't fallen behind, although he went off track very slightly there. Hasn't fallen behind Dan since Dan managed to overtake him, and that is because the tyres on Bad Robot are still probably about 60% on its worst tyre. Ethan only 2.4 behind Bad Robot as well. And BX catching up pretty quickly. He's on another set of softs, by the way, in case you missed it. So BX is going very aggressive at the beginning of the race. So he's done 2 sets of softs. He's got a half-second penalty, which is going to penalise him a little bit. Pagel on the hards now has worked his way up to P6, and he's holding up Javi as well. So Javi's having a really difficult time with the strategy that he's chosen, because he's going to have to overtake a lot of cars on a lot of poor tyres, and he's only worked his way up to P6 now, 11.8 off of BX Royal. So it really looks comfortable for BX right now, but all 3 of the Tier 1 drivers are doing very different strategies. Keplero has just entered the pits himself, so that is Dan who's going to take the lead of the race for now, with his front left struggling pretty badly there. Tyre rules are, yeah, you just have to do 1 lap on each compound as a minimum. So we saw, I think, 2 people pit at the end of lap 1, and I think one of them was Javi, and that's the strategy he's chosen, just to get off the hard tyres. BX, of course, is going to have to do hards at some point, just like everyone else who hasn't done them yet. Keplero is going to come out. It looks like he might come out just ahead or behind Javi. Here's Javi coming round turn 1, and you just see Keplero ahead, coming out of the pits there and taking P5 with very fresh soft tyres. So he's doing he's decided to go aggressive in this middle stint. He's 10.6 behind BX Royal, but with slightly fresher tyres, he might start to close the gap, and Arix Javi should be falling behind a little bit at this stage of the race as well. The Inters rule is banned now, dude. And yeah, so let's just keep a look at Dan the Man at the moment. So he hasn't stopped yet. He's the only driver who's not on hard tyres, I think, who hasn't stopped, because we've got Pagel, Bad Robot and Ethan all on hards right now, and I think Whack hasn't stopped either, down in P8 there. Everyone else looks like they've made a pit stop so far. And and Dan is going to carry on again on completely dead tyres. His quickest lap was a 19.4. This lap was a 20.7, so 1.3 seconds slower than what he has been able to achieve, but I think he could do a little bit better than a 19.4 as well, to be honest. 17.9 is the fastest lap for BX at the moment. Really getting hounded by Bad Robot. Bad Robot's getting held up badly now by Dan, and that is bad news because he's not been able to gap Ethan. Ethan's still just 2.6 behind, and now BX Royal, who himself is only 3.5 seconds away from the lead despite making a pit stop already, because he's gone aggressive with 2 soft strap tyres as his first 2 stints. He's really he's actually extending on Kepler as well. He's built up the gap to 11 seconds now, and I think overtaking Ethan is going to happen fairly soon. Here we go. Here's going to be the move, and it looks like Dan the Man at the front as well is just being overtaken by Bad Robot. Looks like a little bit of contact, and again Dan has to back out of it, and BX Royal just behind gets P3 in a little bit more of a straightforward move on Ethan. Now anyone going into the pits, they're still carrying on. Bad Robot's got the lead now for the first time in the race. Bad Robot's worked his way up, so that those hard tyres still have plenty of life in them as well, so it'll be interesting to see if Bad Robot can extend on Dan, especially through sector 1, where you do need a little bit more grip, and it looks like Dan is falling back a tenth or two every single corner. He was glued to Dan the Man's gearbox, Bad Robot's gearbox, but now he's over a second behind, and maybe BX Royal is going to catch up to him, and he's going to start backing up BX Royal a little bit, coming into the second half of the lap. We're on lap 15 of 46, so about a third of the way through. What's up with Yuri? He was in the lead. That's a good question, but we're going to stick with the BX battle for now. I think it might just be because of the pit stop sequences. And I think this might be another easy overtake for BX. I'm not sure if Dan's going to make it easy for him though, but Bad Robot has increased the gap to 1.2 seconds as it stands. Surely Dan has to come into the pits this lap. His rear tyre is nearly completely dead as well. BX just goes up the inside, is able to brake so much later than Dan, and gets that position fairly easily. Now he's just a second behind Bad Robot. So we've got Nathan 14th, Pagel 13th. Yuri's down in 11th, 3.2 seconds behind. He's on the hard tyres, and that is exactly why he's falling behind. He's lapping in the 21s consistently when BX is lapping about 5 seconds quicker. 4 seconds maybe quicker than him at the moment. And it looks like we're going to have Dan is finally in the pits this lap, so after backing up these guys a little bit and being a bit of a nuisance, he's now released BX, and BX has got a great chance to retake the lead again and put in some laps, because he's got plenty of life left in those soft tyres before he has to make his pit stops onto the less favourable tyres here. Bad Robot really driving precisely here. BX not able to stick a nose in anywhere because Bad Robot's not allowed it, but now it might be easy for BX again with the straight line speed that he's got. He's going around the outside this time, so Bad Robot is wanting to defend the inside, which we haven't seen from some of the other guys. As we head down to the braking zone, you should expect to see BX have much more confidence on the brakes, which he does, and gets P1 fairly easily there. Ethan, meanwhile, still 5.8 ahead of Kepler. Kepler 9.1 behind BX Royal, so he has closed the gap a little bit because BX has been in traffic, and Kepler has just had some clear air to do some low 18s there for 2 laps in a row. Javi in P5, still 6.2 behind. Those mediums are looking not too great at the moment, so maybe expect to see a pit stop from Javi on this lap. And it looks like Whack Jumps is coming into the pits now for his, I'm assuming it's his first stop after 15 laps to get off those mediums. A really solid stint there in the McLaren. Who's going to get overtaken by Otto, who I think came in early, and Yuri potentially as well. Oh, Yuri's gone really wide there off track. He's not enjoying these hard tyres at all. Another 21 flat. Whack Jumps putting in some, oh dear me. Whack Jumps put in a little bit of fuel, and Dan the man is probably going to get Yuri here as well. Dan on the hards, so he's doing his hard stint now. Be interesting to see if we see him in the pits again in a couple of laps. But he sweeps round Yuri and is a solid P8 at the moment. Juho Finn on the mediums, holding up Pagel also on the mediums. In a little battle for P10 here. Pagel, our tier 3 champion. Pagel has a great run out of that corner. And is Juho going to fight it? He does try to squeeze Pagel to the inside. Pagel doesn't have enough confidence to get a move done, but Juho goes really wide into the entry, and Pagel is alongside for the second part of these corners, and it is going to be a drag race between two Toyota FT1s all the way down to the chicane. Pagel's going to go in for some slipstreams to get some extra speed here, with Woozy just lurking behind, ready to pounce as well. So Pagel's on the inside. He's going to try and brake late. I don't know if he's going to have the confidence to do it. This is going to be tight between these two. And Pagel's released his brakes a little bit to get into the corner, and he gets the position. But Juho tried to fight back a little bit. Pagel loses a bit of traction. That's allowed Woozy to really close the gap on them. He's on soft tyres, so he might be able to swoop past Juho very easily here going into turn 1 if he's got the bravery to do so. Juho's got some slipstream, which is helping him as well. Has a little look on the inside of Pagel, can't do anything about it, and is a bit out of position as a result. And Woozy is going to sweep around the outside, get P11, and try and chase down Pagel now. BX crashed. What's BX? Oh dear, he's down in 4th and I missed it. Oh no. So BX Royal, I did say that this could happen. He's fallen behind Bad Robot, he's fallen behind Ethan, who's now the race leader, and he's fallen behind Kepler, who wants to take full advantage of this. BX has blown his double soft stint where he was at the lead of the race fairly comfortably. Remember, he had around 10 seconds on Kepler, and now he's half a second behind. Kepler, if he can get past Ethan, can build a gap as well before BX has to come into the pits. Ethan, don't forget, on the hard tyres, not made a pit stop yet. BX is driving like a man on a mission, actually gets alongside Kepler and is going to get the position on him. Is he going to try and get Ethan at the same time? Ethan unable to do it there, but then he does on the second part of the corner. That loses both of them a little bit of time, and potentially is going to allow Kepler to make it 3 wide, but it looks like another drag race down this straight between BX and Ethan. BX seems to have the speed over the Nissan GTR there. Ethan's going to have to tuck into 2nd place, and BX really saving himself a little bit there from the embarrassment. Looks like Kepler's going to go up into P2 on with a late move into the chicane. It cuts the corner a lot though. I don't know if that's going to get him a penalty. Let's wait and see. And are we going to see BX going into the pits? He does. Kepler is going to be our new race leader. I think we've had 6 or 7 different race leaders in quick succession in this race. It's only been 20 laps. BX and Ethan. So BX 2 soft stints was equal to Ethan's single hard stint there in the end. And Mr. Berserk's going to actually move up into P2 in all this, I think. Oh, well done. He's driving very, very solidly. He's on another set of soft tyres, so he's only been on soft so far. But that's still solid. Look how much tyre life he's got left as well on those softs. Really good drive of Mr. Berserk. Autoration going incredibly long on these mediums. I think he pit at the end of lap 1 to get off his hards, and now he's on medium tyres, and he's up into 3rd place from pretty much last for quite a while. Excuse me, that's just my dog. Oi. We got Dan the Man in P4, but let's follow Kepler quickly. I just need to check. That's fine. Oi. So, any battles going on up and down the grid? It looks like BX Royal coming out of the pits has caught up to Dan the Man. Bad Robot, I've got to say. He's 42 seconds off the lead now, because he's put in a lot of fuel there to probably go to the end of the race. Yep, he's got pretty much a full tank of fuel. Bad Robot does as well, so these guys, when they stop a second time, are not going to be putting fuel in. Now we're going to see what we've seen multiple times this race, just an easy overtake for BX Royal. I'm not too sure, both of them on medium tyres for this stint. And Bad Robot squeezed BX onto the grass, and BX is still going to get the position somehow. That was very tight racing, not much space left there for Bad Robot, but he's going to get a switch back through the chicane and take P5 once again. That was a much better overtaking move, but then he goes straight off track and BX sweeps back through. Oh dear, what a exciting couple of corners that was for those two. But it's good news for BX, he's got 4 seconds now to try and close the gap to Dan the Man. And he's going to start gapping Bad Robot a little bit now, I think. Yuri's worked his way back up into 7th, still on those hard tyres that we saw him having a bit of a nightmare with. And Javi's gone on to softs now in P8. I think he'll be getting past Yuri. Well, it was like he wasn't even there. Now Keplero's come into the pits, so let's ride on board with BX for the remainder of the lap and see if he comes out. Keplero's putting in fuel as well, probably pitting to the end. Let's see if his gauge gets above, well, around about 90%. I'm expecting him to put in 44 seconds gap. He's got put in 75%. Okay, maybe that's enough for the Lexus to get it to the end. We know it's got a really good tank on it. And actually, he's already leaving the pits, so it's quite a slow pit exit though. That's the problem. Look how slow he is leaving the pits there. Berserk Autoration also in the pits, and it looks like Kepplero is going to be the race leader by quite a substantial margin. Let's just see. It's, well, actually 6 seconds. He's got 6 seconds on Dan. He's got 9.2 on BX Royal as well. Kepplero has gone onto the medium tyres now. So he's going to do his medium stint. So exactly the same tyre compound as BX. So we shouldn't see BX closing the gap that much. We've got all 3 top tier 1 drivers in the top 5. We've got 2 of the top tier 2 drivers in the top 5. And the 3rd tier 2 driver disconnected. So it's all going according to plan for the tier 1 and 2 guys. And then Yuri is the best driver outside of that in P6 on his hards. Any action going? Oh, we've got some action further back between Ethan and Woozy in a battle for P7. Looks like Woozy has just got ahead. They're both in the same car, the Nissan GTR, going down the back straight. It looks like Woozy's covering off the inside for the following corner as well. And they'll both be queuing up to pass Yuri going into turn 1 with his worn hard tyres now. Unless he goes into the pits. He is going into the pits, so that saves. Oh no, he doesn't go into the pits. Maybe he just lost some traction there. Coming out of the final chicane, and he just loses 2 positions really easy. Whack on his soft is going to try and get past Yuri as well here. And he makes... oh dear, makes pig's ear of it. So he drops about a second back on Yuri as a result of that, and it gives Yuri a little bit of breathing space. Javi just 7/10 behind Bad Robot now. So Kepplero really is in control of this. I can't remember if he's won a race of champions in the past. I want to say no, I don't think he has. So this would be his first victory of the race of champions. Dan has never even competed in the race of champions in P2 there. BX has 1 or 2, I can't remember. And this is Javi's debut as well. So that's how it looks in the top 5. Bad Robot has competed once, actually did really well as the tier 7 champion. And then, did he compete last season? I think he qualified, I'm not sure if he competed. So have he not really closed the gap that effectively here in this past lap? He's on a quicker compound tyre as well, so he should be able to get past Bad Robot on this lap. BX looks like he's hounding Dan in front as well. In the battle for P2, Dan is on the hard tyres and not enjoying them by the looks of it. He's all over the place. Lag's not helping either. I'm sure BX is a little bit frustrated at that, not able to confidently pick a side and stick to it because Dan's car's lagging. Yeah, you can see BX made a little bit of contact with him and goes a little bit wide there as well, so maybe he's all over the screen for BX, and that's allowing Dan to extend the gap to 1.3. Javi has got past Bad Robot in all that battling as well, so he's only, well, he's less than a second behind BX Royal now, and 12.2 off the lead. And he's on softer compounds than BX, so we might see Javi overtaking BX for the first time in this race. Javi has a soft stint left and BX has his hard stint left. Oh dear, that is true. BX has been really costing him dearly there, because he's battling with a lot of other drivers and not just galloping off into the lead, kind of like what Keplero is doing. Keplero 10 seconds ahead of Dan, who's still got BX stuck behind him, and now he's got Javi stuck behind him as well. So something's going to have to give this lap. It looks like he's hitting the grass and sliding, but I don't think he's actually making the mistakes that we're seeing on the screen. BX is super close, but he's not going to try a move yet. Oh yes, he is. And he's finally got it, and he's got a good exit there as well. And he's gonna, well, Dan's really close to the back of him, so BX is gonna have to go defensive all the way down the straight, heading to the final chicane of the lap. Javi might decide to have a look in all of this as well, and Bad Robot's not even that far behind either. Dan going onto the outside, Javi following BX's line. Javi's gonna try and follow his way through. Very similar liveries on the Lexus, the BMW. Looks like Dan wins out for now, and Bad Robot's actually going to get past Javi. So that is a really good bit of opportunism there from Bad Robot, and now he's all over the back of Dan. Might try a move on Dan. The hard tyres really allowing BX to already extend to a second ahead of these guys. Looks like we're going to go 3 wide through the exit of turn 1 into turn 2. Dan's still ahead of these two. Looks like Javi's getting past Bad Robot. Bad Robot's going to have to slot back behind Javi for now. Gives Dan some breathing room. Then we've got 7.9 seconds back to Ethan, who's just ahead of Woozy. Actually, he's managed to get past Woozy again. Woozy was ahead of him for a little while. Woozy's tyres completely dead, and Ethan's got pretty fresh mediums on him. So back to the battle for P3. This might be a little bit more straightforward for Javi. He's already got a little bit of a run on Dan, but now he's going to have to tuck back behind because he didn't have the slipstream. Bad Robot going to come into the party as well here. Javi on the inside, Bad Robot on the outside. Javi's going to try and brake late into the chicane, and it looks like this time he might actually get the position from Dan. Dan really all over the place on the exit of the chicane there. And he's still ahead of Bad Robot though, but it's top 3 are all tier 1 drivers now for the first time in the race. It doesn't actually often end with all 3 tier 1 drivers sitting on the podium. I don't even think it's ever happened actually, to be honest. Woozy and Whack Jumps in for their second stops as well. So that promotes Juho up into P7. Juho with some pretty dead mediums there. He's going to have to stop probably on this lap. Nathan up into P8 again. Been driving pretty solidly all season, Ethan. Plenty of race wins. Actually, both of them ahead of Mr. Berserk, but I want to say that Berserk's made an extra pit stop on them because his tyres are incredibly fresh. Then we have Otto recovering back into P10 ahead of Woozy, who's just coming out of the pits. Whack Jump, sorry, who's coming out on softs. Woozy is also leaving on softs, as is Pagel. They're all coming out fairly close to each other. Whack has a 3-second penalty, unfortunately for him. And Yuri is all the way in last place. He's finally got off those hards. I think he's probably going to run these medium tyres all the way to the end of the race now. He's 1 minute 11, so he's not too far away from getting lapped here. 1 minute 11 off the lead of the race, and if he starts getting the blue flags, his strategy will be all for nothing really, because he's just going to start losing multiple seconds a lap as every car catches up to him. Looks like Kepler's got quite a while before he's going to have to pit as well, because he's got plenty of time left on those tyres. He'll want to, I think he has a hard stint left, and he's not going to want to spend too long on the hard tyres. He's got a 10.3 second lead on BX. It wasn't too long ago when BX had a 10-second lead on Kepler. So it's all yeah, you dude can't remember a tier 1 driver not winning. I don't think a tier 1 driver has ever won the Race of Champions, a non-tier 1 driver. No, Iggy, Sickboy, BX, Lars has won it, Marco's won it. Yeah, I think it's just all tier 1 drivers. Well, the closest one to winning at the moment is Bad Robot. He's 16.9 seconds off the lead, the tier 2 guy. Had one of the most consistent seasons out of anyone in ALR. He's just always seemed to be in the top 5, always qualifying well. Managed to pull a win out the bag as well. And he's 1.3 ahead of Dan. Dan was very dominant in tier 2. He, I think, almost every single race was in the top 4, let alone the top 6. DDK did not win a Race of Champions. He won a combined tier 1/tier 3 Nürburgring race. He beat BX Royal and he beat Marco in that. That was pretty impressive. But that wasn't a Race of Champions, that was a league race. So yeah, Bad Robot is extending on Dan at the moment. Dan struggling still with the hards. He must be coming close to the end of this stint. So he's done mediums and he's done hards, so he's got his soft stint left, which is going to be a nice little end to the race for Dan. So potentially outside shot of a podium, because we know BX has to go on the hards. I think Kep might also have to go on the hards. Doing very well, the highest tier 4 driver up in P6. He's got his soft tyres left, as does Bad Robot. I think Javi's going to have a soft set left as well, if I'm right in the fact that he's already done medium, soft, medium and hard tyres in the race so far. BX finally under 10 seconds, he's 9.7 seconds behind Cadborough now. Juhofin has come out and he's getting blue flags now. There's BX Royal in P2. Looks like Yuri's about to start getting lapped into, yeah, this is going to ruin his strategy like I was saying. And Woozy's not going to be too far off that as well. Tier 3 is not doing too well in the race. The highest tier 3 driver is in P10. So that's behind 2 tier 5 drivers and 2 tier 4 drivers. So tier 3 is officially the worst tier tonight. But we have to wait and see what the strategies hold, because everyone's got to stop, I think, one more time, apart from some of the guys at the very back. Some people are going to be on softs at the end with low fuel, some people are going to be on hards. No one's close enough to each other. Looks like Ethan's probably catching up to Dan, actually. So that's quite exciting. Oi! That's why I like the Race of Champions. You have to do 3 tyres. We've increased the tyre wear for the league to 6 times. So the tyres are wearing on this high tyre deg track really quickly. And it's allowing people like Ethan to still be battling the tier 2 champion after 31 laps of this race. And Ethan has a soft set of tyres to do at the end, so top 5 really possible here for Ethan. Yeah, Autoration is now an A+ driver in tier 4. First time that's ever happened. You hardly even get A rated drivers in tiers outside the top 3 tiers. Dan is quite good at defending though, as you've probably seen so far. Everyone's had a bit of a difficult time getting past him, even though he's been on these hard tyres. So Ethan might struggle to get past as well. Ethan 6 seconds behind Bad Robot, who's on the exact same strategy as him. So he's going to have to outpace him if he wants to get a spot in the top 4 and overtake Dan. I think we've got another 3 or 4 laps before we start seeing the final pit stops for the soft tyres as well. So that's when it's all going to start cooking, I think. Auto to tier 2. Well, you have to wait and see. I think we're announcing the tiers on the 3rd of June and the calendar, although the Patreon guys got told what the calendar was today. Overall, they were very happy. There was just one round that they thought ruined the whole calendar. But you've got to chuck one in. You can't have a whole season of the very best tracks. Ethan going on to the inside of Dan, and it looks like he's got that position fairly comfortably there. Good little overtake by Ethan. Didn't look like Dan battled too hard in the end, and it is because he's coming into the pits for his final stop, as is Javi, who's got completely zero fuel. I wonder if he managed to get into the pits without running out, actually. If he's timed it perfectly or not. VX with a 1.5 second penalty. What's he got that for? 15.8 seconds behind Kepler now. He's had some sort of issue, which has probably given him the penalty as well. Bad Robot just 3.3 seconds behind BX as well. So it's looking very, very comfortable for Kepler, it's got to be said, because Javi is coming out of the pits now. Let's see what the gap between Kep and Javi is going to be. Javi had to put in fuel as well. He's on softs for the rest of the race at least, as is Dan, who's just come out 7.6 seconds, 3.8 behind him. So Javi, yeah, well, if you're scouting BX for Javi's got a chance of catching BX because of BX is what, like 16 seconds behind Ke, but yeah, he's gonna have to pound some unreal laps, set fastest lap multiple times if he wants to catch Kepler. Kepler is gonna be on, what were we saying? He's gonna be on the hards at the very end, so he is gonna be catchable as long as the tyres get looked after by Javi. BX has come into the pits now as well. He's gonna put in a little bit of fuel as well, so this might drop him behind Mr. Berserk, certainly, as long as Berserk doesn't come into the pits as well. Okay, Ben is very confident that Javi's going to win this race. He's in P7 right now. That's a lot of work that he's going to have to do. Is he going to overtake BX Royal? He's just coming around the final corner to complete the lap now, and BX is on the pit exit. It's quite a long pit exit though. That's the problem. It takes a long time, and Javi is coming around turn 1 now. It looks like BX is out just ahead. The gap is going to be 1.3 seconds as we head into the following turn. Javi on soft tyres, BX is on hard tyres, remember, because he still had his hard stint to do. Keplero's come into the pits now to put on the hards as well. This is where it's going to potentially come alive for Javi. He's just got to beat 2 tier 1 guys to take the victory, because I think he's probably going to get the undercut and stay ahead of Bad Robot and Ethan, who are still out. So what can BX do? BX should have 15 or 20 seconds on Javi as it stands, but BX has had a couple of mistakes in the race, and he's going to have to use every inch of the horsepower advantage that he's got in that Corvette to keep ahead of Javi, because he's not going to have any speed in the corners with the tyre difference that he's got and the poor traction that the hard tyres have. Just look how Javi has closed the gap right onto his bumper. He loses a little bit of traction coming out because he's pushing so hard, and Javi is just going to sweep around the outside of the final corner with the superior traction and still have the speed and traction to take it. But BX might get it into turn 1 again. Javi's going to have to stick it around the outside. It's so easy to get this wrong. There's a tiny bit of contact, but they keep it on the road. Javi has the position. Kepler is 22.8 seconds up the road as it stands. That is the gap that Javi's going to have to narrow down in the next 11 laps on soft tyres. He'll probably catch him when his tyres start to go off and have to overtake Keplero on really worn soft tyres, so I'm not sure if it's possible. He's going to also, by the looks of it, have to overtake Autoration and potentially Mr. Berserk. I think Berserk's got a pit for hards. I don't think Autoration can do 11 laps on that tank either. So they're both going to come in, and it's just going to be a fight between Javi and Keplero for the rest of the race. It's already 1.2 ahead of BX Royal now. 2 seconds a lap quicker Javi is going to have to be per lap to catch Keplero, and that is going to be whilst managing his tyres so that he doesn't degrade them too much as well. Yeah, Javi has P2. Javi's a net P2 as it stands, because the two in front, who've driven pretty well to still be in this position at this point of the race, the tier 1 guys haven't managed to get a pit stop on them, and they're still going around even longer. That was Keplero's outlap, so we don't know how fast he's going. Javi's set in 18.2, that's 3/10 off BX Royal's fastest lap, so he needs to find a little bit extra time on top of that, to be honest, if he's going to be catching Keplero, because he's going to be having to count on Keplero lapping in the mid 1 minute 20s to catch him on this kind of pace. BX Royal's lap was a 19.6 for reference, so he's not lapping in the 1 minute 20, so if Keplero could do the same, he should have the win in the bag. Really, the gap is 20.6 as it stands. Let's join Keplero because he's rounding the final corners. This is going to be a really good tell for how possible this is going to be for Javi. Is he below 20? Yes, he sets a 19.6. That means Javi needs to set 17.6s. And this lap, he's going to round the final chicane, and we're going to see what kind of lap time this is going to be. Is it going to be quicker than an 18.9? Can he get into the 17s for, I think, the first time this race? He does a 17.9, so he's not too far off that target time, but he's got to sustain it and potentially hope for Keplero to have some problems. He also needs to hope that he doesn't catch Autoration too quickly and that Auto doesn't make too many mistakes, because if Auto holds up Javi at all, then it's completely game over. Javi is now 19 seconds, he's below 19 seconds away from Keplero now, and this is, I think it's going to come down to the final lap, to be honest. BX is out of the picture, he's 4 seconds off the back of Javi. BX is completely done for. He's just got P3 in the bag, I think, potentially, but he might get caught by Dan here, who's only 1 second off the back of him and on soft tyres, so actually a podium for BX isn't guaranteed at all. Ethan on the softs is actually ahead of Bad Robot as well. I wonder how that's happened. Bad Robot must have had a problem somewhere, because he was 6 seconds ahead of Ethan consistently for the entire race, and now Ethan's ahead of him and chasing down Dan the Man and BX Royal. So BX could potentially get caught by these three drivers. Then there's a huge gap, 24 seconds back to Berserk, who's doing his hard stint, and he's going to try and get he's going to have Nathan for company fairly soon on the mediums. Yuri's on very worn mediums. He's going to have to come in as well at the end of this lap, and he's going to do the rest of the race on soft, so I was wrong about him not having to pit again. Otto is in the pits, and Javi is 17.9 off the back of Keplero. He set a 17.9 lap as well, coincidentally. Keplero set a 19.7, so 1.8 seconds quicker on that previous lap than Keplero. So he needs just like another couple of extra tenths, maybe another extra half a second per lap, does Javi. And look, his tyres are starting to wear as well, especially that rear left is wearing quicker than the rest by the looks of things. You see Keplero a second off his own pace with another sector still to go. Nice little 7-Eleven livery on the Lexus. And 19.4, so he's finding more pace right when he needs to, Keplero. Javi does have the fastest lap now, by the way, 17.9. Is he going to set another 17.9? 17.8, he goes even quicker. That is a new fastest lap for Javi. He's doing everything he possibly can. The gap is down to 16 seconds now. Sector 1 is where he's probably going to be gaining the most because of all the sweeping corners that soft tyres just simply love. He's got a lapped car who's hopefully not going to lose him any time here. He's 15.6 behind now. And is Yuri going to get out the way for him? Yuri is going to be probably on the soft tyres now. Yeah, he has. He's made his pit stop. Still ahead of Javi because those soft tyres are fairly decent, to be fair, when they're fresh out the pits. 15.2 is the gap now. Javi goes a little bit wide on the exit of the second part of the death corners. 7.8 seconds ahead of Dan the Man. BX Royals dropped down to 5th now, by the way. He's having an absolute nightmare at this last portion of the race. Bad Robot's probably going to get a move done on BX before the end of the lap as well. We're going to have to stick with these because we've missed him lose a couple of positions there. Dan up into 3rd now. Our tier 2 champion looks like he's on his way to a podium. Our tier 4 champion is in for a top 4 finish, which is a great achievement for someone who's raced at tier 4 and not at this level before. Now I think Bad Robot's going to have to brave into one of these corners to get the move done though. I don't know if he knows that BX is on the hard tyres. He must assume it because there's no other reason for BX to be falling back like this. BX defending pretty well through sector 1 though. Very difficult to overtake here unless the car in front has a little bit of a mistake like that was. But it wasn't enough for BX to open the door for Bad Robot to get through. Bad Robot now alongside BX. He's going to have to try and move around the outside into the next corner, which is a really tricky overtake to try and do, and he backs out of it. He's going to try and go for the switchback, and is he going to get alongside into the... Yeah, he nails the apex, and that is P5 for Bad Robot. It's a little drag race down to the next corner, but he should have way better tyres under braking to get that position. Looks like Ethan's closing the gap pretty quick to Dan as well. 17.7, you can see the fastest lap from Javi, so I think he's potentially on course to get fairly close. We're going to look at the split right after we see Bad Robot consolidate his position there, and BX loses traction because he doesn't have the tyres to keep up with these guys. So at the front the gap is 13.1 with 5 laps to go. He's got a little bit of traffic here from Juho. Juho might be holding him up a little bit, and that is not... well, I don't think he's going to be very happy with that when every second's going to count. 12.6 is the gap. Arix Javi had to overtake back marker as well in Yuri. Actually, we saw that happen ages ago. Yuri's just kept onto the back of him pretty well, to be honest. Tier 1 championship favourite Dan. Well, if you can get a podium in the Race of Champions, you can get regular podiums in Tier 1. That's my thinking. Although he has to keep it ahead of Ethan right now. 11.8 seconds. So he still needs another 2 seconds a lap. He did an 18.1 the last lap, 19.3 for Kepler. Let's see if Keplero's finally lapping outside. No, a 19.7. So despite overtaking that back market Juho there, he is still... I think he's got enough in him. If he doesn't make a mistake, this is going to be Keplero's very first Race of Champions victory. Both of these drivers having a little break next season, by the way. They're both joining up, but as reserves, not as full-time drivers. Maybe battling each other all season took it out of them. Dan at just 3/10 ahead of Ethan, so let's stick with this battle. The final spot on the podium. I wonder how many of you thought Ethan would be getting a podium today, or in the hunt for one with 4 laps left. Maybe the guys who've had to race him in Tier 4 would have put that little bet on. Dan's tyres are cooked, they are indeed, and Ethan's got a lot more life left on his tyres. Oh, both of them didn't get a good exit at all there from Death Chicane, and it's Bad Robot's coming into the picture now as well, so Dan could lose 2 spots here. We saw Bad Robot overtake Dan and have a fairly comfortable lead on him, but he must have made a mistake somewhere, Bad Robot. He's got a run on Ethan, and is he going to try and do it? No, he tucks in behind for now. Oh no, he's not. He's going to go for it. and Ethan does back out, and Bad Robot goes way too deep, so Ethan didn't back out, it's just Bad Robot made a mistake there. Ethan gets that position back, and that allows Dan a little bit of breathing room. He's now 1.4 ahead of, yeah, well, you just said we could see Den's getting P3, but it's looking a little bit less likely now. We're on lap 43, start of lap 43 out of 46, so 4 laps to go. The gap is 9.5 seconds. Javi's tyres are pretty spent though. He's going to have to do at least 2 laps on completely dead rear tyres, so I think that is going to be his challenge over. He said 18.7, that's a second slower than his fastest, so his tyres are definitely losing their shine now. 20.4 for Keplero, again not the quickest for him, but that's still only 1.3 slower than Javi now. It looks like it's going to be difficult for Javi. He needs to still be 2 seconds a lap, maybe 3 seconds a lap quicker at this point, and his tyres just don't look like they've got it. Meanwhile, Dan has the gap between Dan and Ethan has closed in again. Dan's going to have to do a lap or 2 on completely dead rears as well. So they've either not calculated it well enough, some of these guys, or because they've been battling, they've torn through the tyres and shredded them more than they expected to happen. Bring back punctures. Yeah, Dan would have a puncture by now, so would Ethan actually. It was like if you're under 40%, the chances of getting a puncture were pretty high under the old rules. Dan going defensive into turn 1. Is he going to have enough traction? Ethan's maybe getting a cut back into turn 2. No, he backs out of it and lines up behind Dan, and it's going to be costing him a little bit more time now, and Bad Robot might close the gap again to these guys. BX isn't actually too far behind as well, because the last 2 laps have been in the 20s, which isn't great. We know that BX has probably been lapping in the 19s on the hard tyres. Dan's connection is saving him. Potentially, he needs to sort it out. But I think it's only a matter of time anyway. Ethan just needs to get a good exit out of this corner, and he's got him. The Nissan doesn't have the best top speed though, and that is another thing that might be saving Dan. They're pretty even when it comes to acceleration in the top end. Now Dan's going defensive here. Really poor connection, to be honest. I don't like watching him because of it. Ethan might have a run into turn 1. No, he's not gonna try it. Meanwhile, at the front, we've got 2 laps left, and the gap is 7.1 seconds. So it looks like the inevitable is about to happen, and Keplero is gonna really benefit from BX getting it all wrong in terms of spinning, which has been a kind of feature of his season so far, and exploit the win. Javi's actually stuck behind Juho a little bit here, so he's losing a bit of time as well anyway. Then we've got this battle for P3, Dan, Ethan and Bad Robot. Bad Robot and Ethan actually having another battle with each other. And Bad Robot swoops around the outside, and now he's got a chance for P3 once again, because he's gonna... Oh, his tyres are pretty gone as well. Ethan's got the best tyres out of these 3, so I think one of them's gonna have a little spin before the end of this. We've got another lap to go, and that sector 1 is an absolute killer. Ethan might have another go. Not yet. Not yet. They're actually losing time to Dan, so Bad Robot's struggling more on these red tyres than Dan is, and that's actually holding up Ethan now. So these two have battled themselves out of a spot on the podium by the looks of it. We've got Keplero with a 7.9 second lead heading into the final lap. 1 minute 20.2 was his time. That was only a 10th slower than Javi, who had a little bit of traffic. Just wasn't enough. That soft stint, a little bit too long on the soft tyres for Javi, and maybe pitting too early wasn't the way to go. Looks like Keplero got the strategy spot on. Ethan's had an off, he's all the way down 5.5 behind Bad Robot now, and BX is miles behind there as well. Autoration looks like he's going to be 7th, Nathan 8th, Berserk 9th, so he's going to be in the top 2 tier 5 drivers in the top 10. with Yuri rounding it up. But let's ride on board with Keplero, who's gone through the final chicane. He's taken a very commanding victory. It didn't look like it was going to go his way for half the race until BX started having his troubles, but a very solid victory for Keplero, our championship contender from Tier 1. And then our Tier 1 champion is going to round the corner and take P2. I think he pitted one stop extra. Dan is fending off Bad Robot right at the death. Both of them have completely dead tyres, but Dan is going to hold on to P3 on his debut in the Race Champions. Bad Robot P4. Ethan, a really solid P5 for the Tier 4 champion, being BX Royal, who's multiple record holder in ALR. Nothing to be sniffed at. Then we have Otto Ration with a good solid drive to 7th place in the end. So we saw him right at the back at the start of the race, and now he's in 7th. Nathan, our Tier 5 champion, is going to come through into P8 in that VW Beetle. Nice little car is the Beetle. Very underrated in ALR, I've got to say. Then Berserk in P9, and Pagel, our Tier 3 champion, is the highest Tier 3 driver in P10, ahead of Whack in 11th. Woozy is going to be 12th, Juho 13th, a lap down, and Yuri 14th, a lap down. And Ben DNF'd because of his connection. Loose Moose Racing. Okay. I don't know why he's got a Canna delivery and a Tim Hortons on his overalls, but let's have a quick look at the fastest laps there. So Javi had the fastest lap at 17.74 tenths quicker than Keplero managed. Bad Robot also managed to get in the 17s as well as BX Royal. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, guys. Well done to Keplero on his debut title of Race of Champions champion. And also congrats to our two podium sitters getting podiums on their debuts, Javi and Dan. So yeah, that's it. That is the last official race of season 13, but we've got Nations Cup going on. We've got our sign-ups open for Group 3, so sign up for that if you haven't already. And yeah, join me next season.